Hello, my name is Sam Pirozzolo, and once again you're with Right Bites TV, and tonight's Right Bite is going to be about the Staten Island courtroom scandal, a lawsuit filed by Michael Pellizzuto about workplace abuse. And with me tonight to discuss that happens to be his attorney, Richard Luthman. So I'd like to introduce you to Richard Luthman. And Rich, how are you? Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you very much.
So what can you tell us about this lawsuit? It's rather shocking here.
We brought a lawsuit to protect Michael after a series of events that occurred. And we know from the advance and from the local paper and from everything else that in September, beginning on September 5th, Dennis Quirk, who is the president of the Court Officers Union, began running around the Staten Island courthouses and basically calling my client a rat and defaming him and slandering him to anybody that would listen. The next day, we had the judges, a big judicial shakeup, where Judy McMahon and Steve Rooney, who were the judges that were the administrative judges in Richmond County, but one, Judy McMahon did criminal and did civil and no criminal because her husband, Mike McMahon's the DA, so they separated that, and Rooney was just handling the criminal.
Okay.
That came to an end on September 6th.
Right. It was reported by the Staten Island Advance that these judges resigned from their positions and that Justice McMahon was reassigned to Manhattan and Judge Rooney was still here on Staten Island. What was the cause of that?
There was an investigation going on by the Office of Court Administration. And on the 7th of September, a giant rat appeared. And the giant rat that appeared was there and it was admittedly put there by Dennis Quirk, the president of the Officers Union, but he did it in his own capacity.
Right, but why did the judges step down? They certainly didn't step down because of Dennis Quirk and the rat.
Well, they stepped down because my client had been involved in a almost 2-year investigation of Judge McMahon and her activities in breaking the administrative order that said that she could not do anything with respect to the criminal term on Staten Island. And when you think about it, the rule is a very important rule because we have one bedroom, the McMahon's bedroom, where you could have the decisions of who to prosecute, how to prosecute them, what means they get prosecuted by, what judges they see, and how justice is dispensed. It's almost like a star chamber, and we can't have that in our system of justice.
Well, that would seem then that the lawsuit should be aimed more towards these allegations against Justice McMahon than Dennis Quirk. How do we get Dennis Quirk into the mix here?
Well, we got to Dennis Quirk because his actions are so clearly shocking. They're shocking, they're outrageous, and they're intentional. And so much like you have Roger Ailes, and you had a lot of lawsuits against Roger Ailes and Fox News, and when you bring in a bunch of entities, it dilutes everything. The strategy in this lawsuit is we're going right at one of the intentional bad actors, Dennis Quirk. So I don't have to deal with OCA in this case. I don't have to deal with the McMahon lawyers. I don't have to deal with anybody else's lawyers here. I get to go straight on Dennis Quirk, and I can bring in other parties, the McMahons. I can bring in some of the court personnel that witnessed what was going on, and I can have depositions, non-party depositions, right away.
Okay, so basically, from reading the lawsuit that you had filed, it is against Dennis Quirk, and you make all these allegations. But in the lawsuit, you're alleging that because of Dennis Quirk's relationship with your client, that he's injured him in his job and he's lost his dream job. But more shocking, I think, to most of the viewers and Staten Islanders would be the fact of the allegations that are made against Justice McMahon and her husband, District Attorney Mike McMahon. Can you go over some of those allegations a little bit?
Well, we have the tapes on, and they were released on Quirk. What he did and what he said was outrageous, and you can listen to that. But there are also a whole bunch of tapes on the McMahons and what the McMahons did. There are tapes with Judge McMahon and her husband discussing grand jury matters. Without Judge Rooney present, nobody else is present besides.
But didn't Justice McMahon agree to step down from the criminal portion, the criminal administrative portion?
Without question. But the problem is she was meddling in the criminal. She created Part N with Judge Charlie Troya, who sits on both the criminal and the civil side, so she could keep her finger on the pulse of what's happening in criminal. All the warrant applications got shuttled to Charlie Troya, who was not a seasoned criminal judge. So what would happen? The DA's office got to railroad people. This is a situation where great judges that sit in Staten Island, thoughtful jurists like Mario Mattei, Judge Mattei, and Judge Wayne Ozzie, they got, quote unquote, too defense oriented. They had complaints from the district attorney's office. We have her own mouth saying they're too defense-oriented. These justices should be in lower criminal court.
You have a tape, and I can play this tape if you'll give me these tapes. We can play these tapes for the audience of Justice McMahon saying to steer cases away from certain judges because they're too defense-orientated.
Without question.
That's some pretty big news. And you also have making allegations that District Attorney Mike McMahon was party to those conversations or similar conversations?
Well, Mike McMahon was on tapes, on conversations, talking about the grand jury, talking about things that he should not have been talking about with his wife, who should not even be anywhere near the criminal lane. We have other conversations with Justice Rooney, who's the criminal judge, complaining about how Part N was a failure. How she was doing the wrong thing, that somebody was going to drop a dime on her, that the whole thing was going to end up as a catastrophe, and he's the guy that should have been in charge.
Okay, so let's end it a little bit right here. We'll do another Right Bite segment in just a few minutes because these get a little bit long, and I just want to point out that we will try to reach out to the attorneys for the McMahons, for Dennis Quirk, and I'll cover that in our next Right Bite segment of what they have to say. So these are allegations that are being made by your plaintiff against these folks.
That's true.
Okay, so let's just say good night or goodbye for right now, and we'll be back shortly with another Right Bite segment. Thank you very much.